Good morning, everybody. I'm Gary Simon, your worship associate this morning. Would you please join us in singing hymn number 399 in your gray hymnal? Please rise in body or spirit for number 399 in your gray hymnal.
And this one is a two-part round, so it's got repeats for each little part. So let's sing it all the way through one time, and then a few more times as a round. But once we've sung it all through together, could this side of the congregation start on the second half, and we start on the first? That way we'll keep custody. Okay, here we go.
Good morning. I love that. My name is Mike Kemper, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting us, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homelands of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. We have two announcements today. We are all invited to join Reverend Daniel and Jane Padell for the 2:00 p.m. service at the Community Church of New York City. They will be taking the 1206 train from Croton Harmon into the city. The church is just 7 blocks away from Grand Central at 209 Madison Avenue. It's 35th and Madison. The worship service, called We Can Still Dream, will be led by Reverend Peggy Clark, our former Director of Religious Exploration. It will be a response to the inauguration happening tomorrow. Sorry, it's hard to get that out. This coming Saturday, January 25th, please join us for the all-family chili cook-off and game night. Several families have said that they are submitting chili for the judges, and additional dishes to go with the chili are always welcome. There's a sign-up list in the fellowship hall. Everyone's invited, whether you bring a dish or not. The dinner and games will be from 5:30 to 8:30 in our fellowship hall. For the most up-to-date information on these topics and others, please refer to our weekly e-newsletter and check our website frequently. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you are present in the sanctuary, please join us for coffee and conversation in the fellowship hall. If you're watching the live stream, the link for our Zoom coffee hour can be found in the Saturday reminder in your email. If you are just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us at uukroton@gmail.com with your name, and we'll make sure you're added to our e-news list. Please remember to silence your cell phones at this time. Once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
Thank you. It is so good to see you this morning. Good morning. And we are gathering on a day that is celebrated across religious traditions. This weekend, communities of faith, houses of worship, people of goodwill are gathering to honor and remember the freedom movement that changed this country. Yes, we're gathering to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Sunday. And we are also gathering more so to call to mind the values and the movement that Dr. King was a part of. We gather to honor Coretta Scott, Ella Baker, A. Phillips Randolph, Pauli Murray, Thurgood Marshall, Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, Ralph Abernathy, Andrew Young, John Lewis, Theodore Heschel, James Lawson, Jimmy Lee Jackson, Viola Luzo, James Reeb, Emmett Till, Mary Elizabeth Till Mobley, and so many millions of people whose names we don't know, who saw what America was in the 1950s and knew in their bones that this country could be profoundly better. We are gathering to honor people who put righteousness first, who put ethics first, who put goodness and transformation first. And I know sometimes when we hear the word righteous, people might think of slang from the 1980s, but it's not just that. It comes to us from ancient traditions that talk about corrective action, seeing what is and acting nobly and good in response. So as we gather on this Sunday as houses of worship up and down the river valley on this chilly weekend come together, may we remember the sounds of freedom, the call of transformation, and think about how we too in our time can look at the world around us and decide that we will act with righteousness. And to remind us of that, we are going to ring our bells this morning. We will ring them loudly, and the sounds can be something we carry with us this week. Jane Podell is our amazing Director of Religious Exploration, and she now will lead all the children in the congregation into that bell tower to ring the bell. Don't worry, the string's on the first floor. So whether it's your first time or your 100th, Jane and the children of our congregation will ring the bells. Sounds resonate in our hearts and across this river valley now and in the days to come. Thank you.
Today's chalice lighting words are from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. The question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists will we be? Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice? Now, would you please join me in saying our unison affirmation, the words of which are in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. And now, would you please all join in singing our songs of praise in both English and Spanish. These are numbers 381 and 382, the words of which are in your order of service.
In a moment, we will hear Dr. King's rendition of a very old story from the great teacher Jesus, a parable, a short lesson to talk about goodness and love. Let's take a breath. Dr. King once said, "Let us develop a kind of dangerous unselfishness." One day, a man came to Jesus and he wanted to raise some questions about some vital matters of life. He wanted to trick Jesus and show him that he knew a little more than Jesus and throw him off base. And so he asked a question. Now, that question could easily have ended up in a philosophical and theological debate. But Jesus immediately pulled that question from floating in midair and placed it on a dangerous curve between Jerusalem and Jericho. And the question was, who is my neighbor? And Jesus told the story of a certain man who went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. And as this certain man made the journey, he fell among robbers who attacked him, beat him, stole his money, and left him bruised and hurt on the side of the road. And by chance, a certain priest appeared and saw the man on the side of the road. But the priest left the wounded man to his fate and passed on to the other side. A few minutes later, an assistant to the priest approached the scene, the same image. And like the priest, the assistant also passed by on the other side of the road. And finally, a person who was a Samaritan, a person of another race than the one who had been hurt, saw the man. And this Samaritan saw the wounded man and was moved with compassion, got off his horse, and decided not to be compassionate by proxy, but administered first aid and helped the person in need. this Samaritan placed the wounded man on his beast and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And Jesus ended up saying, this was the good man. This was the great man, because he had a capacity to see another as a sibling and brother. Who is my neighbor? I do not know his name, says Jesus. He is anyone to whom you prove to be neighborly. He or she is anyone lying in need on life's roadside. Your neighbor is neither a Jew nor a Christian, neither Russian nor American, neither black or white. Your neighbor is a certain person, any person lying needy on one of the numerous Jericho roads of life. Be the Samaritan. Be the Samaritan. Dr. King would tell stories like this to help people grow in their faith and imagination. At the end of one of these renderings, Dr. King brought that story to life to a community of people in Memphis who were working for the rights of sanitation workers. And in one of his very last public speeches, he said, that's the question before us tonight. Not if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to my job? Not if I help to stop what's going wrong against these workers, what will happen to all the hours that I usually spend in my office every day and every week? The question is not, if I stop to help this person in need, what will happen to me? The question is, if I do not stop to help the sanitation workers in Memphis asking for justice, what will happen to them? He said, that's the question. So let us rise up tonight with greater readiness. Let us stand with greater determination. And let us move on in these powerful days, these days of challenge to make America what it ought to be. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation. And he ended, and I want to thank God once more for allowing me to be here with you. He was a man of profound faith, supported by thousands of people of profound hope. And one of the songs that was the anthem of that freedom movement, one that is still, in the words of Otis Moss, unfinished, that we get to play our part in completing, was the hymn, the song, the anthem, We Shall Overcome, which is number 169 in your hymn book. And so, on this Sunday for the Freedom Movement, let us sing, We Shall Overcome. The power of the anthem, the power of the song is because they come from moments where these words are not yet apparent. And decades later, we still long for peace. We still long for a world where all will be free. But a choice that every generation makes is, do we keep singing and working for this? Or do we stop the song? So it's our turn to sing these songs. It's our turn to write the next chapter. It's our time to be a candle of hope. In a moment, I'll invite our choir up to offer a beautiful piece to center us and remind us of who we are called to be in this moment. May it be so. do every week, the children of our congregation will have the opportunity to join religious exploration. And we sing them out with a beautiful song. What's the song, Blake?
Go,
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Sarah.
notes here. I'm here today as a member of the Board of Trustees and co-chair of the Social Justice Committee to speak a bit on service. It's the perfect day for it. Tomorrow, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day not only celebrates the life and achievements of this great American, it has also been designated a National Day of Service, encouraging us all to volunteer to honor the legacy of Dr. King by improving our communities. I'd like to take a minute to draw a distinction between volunteering and service. Reverend Erin Wathos writes, "Volunteering is what you do at a place that is important to you, but not at a place that belongs to you. You cannot volunteer at your own church in the same way you cannot babysit your own kids, because the church belongs to you in the same way your family does. It's your place, your people." One of our board goals this year is to re-examine our structure for encouraging service at the congregation to help everyone get more involved. And our Social Justice Committee offers many ways to serve our wider community. You'll be hearing more about our newly created Democracy Action Team, which will provide opportunities to act for justice and advocate for democracy. And on a local level, we hope you will join us on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, February 13th through 15th, as we gather to prepare a hot dinner, a bagged lunch, and breakfast as part of the Emergency Shelter Partnership, a collaboration of local houses of worship which provides short-term emergency shelter and nutritious meals to unhoused adults during the coldest months of the year. A sign-up sheet will be available in the fellowship hall. Thank you.
We come together in community to share with one another, to support one another, and to celebrate with one another. We bear sacred witness to each other in this honored ritual. As we begin, we know that there are both great sorrows and great joys in our world that must be acknowledged. We light our first candle to honor those in pain, victims of violence and war and oppression all around our world. We light a second candle because we understand that amidst all of that pain, there is also celebration of joy in our world. We honor that joy and sorrow are woven together. For some of us here today, this has been a week of life-changing joy that needs to be lifted up in this worship. For others, this has been a time of deep pain and sorrow that needs to be shared to make the burden lighter. If this has been such a time for you, I invite you to come forward. We will light a candle and to briefly tell us of your joy or sorrow. You may also raise your hand in silent acknowledgement of your joys and sorrows. I will light a candle for you. Please.
Good morning. I'm Tom Glickman. Wanted to share a real joy. Wanted to thank everyone who's signed up for the chili cook-off and game night. It looks like all 7 categories have been sort of, we've got people competing in all the categories. There are prizes. There will be prizes. But also wanted to stress, and Mike mentioned it earlier, all are welcome. So whether you have a great chili recipe or not, it's also a game night. And one of the things that has brought myself and my family great joy over the years has been this sort of intergenerational game nights that we've had over the years that are just wonderful. And we do encourage people, if you've got a favorite game, you're welcome to bring your favorite game and share with everyone who's there while we enjoy chili and everything else. And if you have a great dessert or a drink you'd like to bring, that would also be welcome. But please just come. It should be a wonderful evening. So thank you.
Hello, Caroline Staples. It's wonderful to be back. We escape the heat of summer and go to my daughters in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we chicken out that way. And then we chicken out on a Upper Peninsula winter by telling people we're going south for the winter to New York. The talk today reminded me that I did go on the 1963 March on Washington, and my memories there, very briefly, are that it was so crowded, the crowd was so thick that I had to snake my arm up with the little brownie camera to take a picture and then snake it back down again. That was how crowded and wonderful it was. Okay, it's good to be back.
I'm Christine Clayton. Just wanted to light a candle for my mom. We were able to gather in California to celebrate her life, and it was just really wonderful to be with all the family there and like lifelong friends and college friends that were there. And it was a really, really good time. And probably one of the highlights was 2 days later, Matt and I went and spent some good time with my godparents. My godmother is my mom's best friend, and I haven't seen her since 21, but I've been talking to her a lot on the phone through this. And I just, and her two daughters were there. They flew out in order to help their mother go to my mom's funeral. They flew from Pennsylvania and Southern California. Just like amazing people. And one of the daughters I haven't seen in 26 years. So it was just like this wonderfully emotional moment to be with that family, because they were our family on the West Coast with my parents. And I could feel my parents there with us and just like smiling. They were like, these are our best friends with like one of our daughters. It was just really great. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Maria. And I just want to say that I have such happiness and bliss just bursting out of my pores. I have no clue what to do with myself. But just to say that, again, my surgeon gave me extraordinarily wonderful news, which I'm so happy that I'm alive and well. And I'm a tad nervous. So I just want to thank everyone here in this family of choice of mine, that you have been so supportive, continue to be of support to me. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank Papa Walter Hahn and Mama Hilda Silva. And I want to thank them so much for bringing me forth to the world, and that I am reminded that were it not for them, I would not be here. And I'm just thankful that I'm being called upon to serve my higher purpose. So thank you again.
I'd like to light a candle of hope for the ceasefire in Gaza.
I'm Ginny Stillman. I was hoping to have the joy of going to a Martin Luther King service in Ossining at 5 today at Star of Bethlehem. I just got notification that it's been canceled because of the impending snowstorm. But it will be televised. Well, there'll be a YouTube from last year's service at 5 o'clock. So if you care to attend virtually, just go to YouTube and look for Star of Bethlehem.
Good morning. Today, my parents are celebrating their 57th wedding anniversary.
One of Justin's close friends and coworkers, Will, was impacted by the Eaton fire. We think his family house is still standing, but because he works with him, he's able to get him a lot of traveling work for the next few weeks, so he doesn't have to be there, but we're still feeling sad. I'm Monica. I never say my name when I come up here. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Allie, and it's our daughter Adeline's 9th birthday on Tuesday. And anytime that I feel down or worried about the state of the world, I just look to them, and they just give me so much hope, but also just inspire me to keep going.
I lit one final candle for all those joys and sorrows that remain unexpressed, and for those outside of our walls who are searching for a place to bring the wholeness of their lives and be received with love.
Would you join in a moment of prayer, pause, meditation, breath? Spirit of life and love, bigger than the universe, smaller than a grain of sand, Spirit that has accompanied and seen so much this week as people are crying for peace. This week, as we look to one another, this week, as we recall all those around the world who are suffering from climate devastation, from fires and storms, may we do our part to tend the circles of care that we are in, to be present to those around us, to have conversations with laughter and seriousness, to be willing to grow when it is uncomfortable, to learn and grow again and again with the faith and confidence and hope that love is at the center and will accompany. May it be so. Now, if you know me, some of you don't, it's nice to meet you. If you know me, I love our traditions, rituals. I love the old prayer books that each generation comes together and discerns what sources of wisdom will be lifted up in our tradition. If you notice, the icon on our cover today is from the Unitarian movement in the Kashi Hills in northwest India, closer to the border with Pakistan. And Their motto literally is to keep progressing, to move forward evermore, to always grow. And that commitment to change and transformation, that hope that the story's not done, is something that I find beautiful and powerful and resonant. So you'll imagine that I was somewhat shocked and terrified that when I found our beautiful book from 1937, and I thought, let me find an old prayer to use today, there's one called America First. And I went like, ah! Then I calmed down. And I thought, well, maybe this is a story about what we cannot learn from our ancestors. But I found out that the poem itself was actually a satire of the original America First movement, which was a movement that arose in our country in the late years of the Depression that was about nationalism and isolationism. One line in this prayer poem says, "May America be first, not in pride, arrogance, or disdain of people and races, but in sympathy, love, and understanding." And the poem continues in this way, mocking and criticizing the titans of isolation, who were preachers and businessmen and media figures who had a vision of the United States as isolated from the rest of the world, who wanted to keep America, and by that, most of the members of America First meant white Protestant America, separate from the rest of the globe. They wanted to keep immigrants, Mediterranean Catholics and Eastern European Jews, Buddhist Asians, and Muslims from Africa out of America. They wanted to ignore suffering and war overseas, and this is when Ethiopia was being invaded by Italy, when the fascists and communists were rising to power in Russia and Germany. And the only focus for America First was on native-born workers and businessmen, predominantly white, Anglo-Saxon, and Protestant. And the truth is, the original America First was very popular in the 1930s and early 1940s, with blessings from religious figures, including some liberal peace activists. But the movement, who were white men, but the movement was discredited when Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany declared war on the United States in December 1941. And at the time of that original America First, there were preachers who sided with the movement and against it. And many progressive liberal preachers and ministers, black and white, critiqued this rising cauldron of nationalism at the time. And against America First, these teachers and preachers proclaimed righteousness first. Righteousness means to act in accord with divine law, to be morally right and justified before the eternal. Righteousness for the ancient Hebrews was a habit and a commitment to certain actions. That is a righteous person because of the behavior that they exhibit. No one on earth is at all times totally righteous, always perfect. But the goal of this vision was a commitment to habits, rituals, and behaviors to orient toward goodness. Goodness is a blessing and habit in and of itself. So Dr. King was a child when these sermons were happening, when preachers in the Depression were calling for a vision of a different world. But many of his mentors were among those preachers who challenged the original America First. For instance, Howard Thurman, who was a chaplain at Howard University, would repeatedly warn about the influence of the hounds of hell in American society: hate, deception, and fear. Harry Emerson Fosdick, a famous preacher at Riverside Church in New York, critiqued directly America First, calling for righteousness. And Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr., who remarks in his book, "We Are the Leaders We've Been Waiting For," reminds us that King grew up in a household that saw religion as intimately connected to economic, political, and social questions of fairness, right and wrong, and community dignity. His father was a preacher who built almost from scratch an amazing, large, vibrant congregation in Atlanta. His mother was a talented musician and leader in the church. And in the 1950s, after King's own seminary studies, where he read many of the teachers who critiqued that original nationalism, some of whom were his father's colleagues and friends, King would offer his own version on the theme, variously called Righteousness First, God's Kingdom First, First Things First, and other versions. King drew on a tradition that emphasized dual citizenship, the reality of citizenship in this broken, hateful, material world, the comfort of full citizenship in the kingdom of heaven, and the struggle here and now to make real the ancient prayer King would recite every week. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. For King, religion was not about the clouds, but about the here and now. And this movement for righteous religion that was growing in certain quarters in the 50s and 60s was a movement about challenging the disordered philosophy and ideologies still present: white supremacy, classism, masculine, macho, abusive behaviors, and to challenge them with corrective action. For liberal Christians like King, righteousness involved making use of the ancient parables of Jesus to challenge industrial Jim Crow America to repent and change laws. For progressive Jews, righteousness involved making the moral call of Isaiah, Ruth, and Moses challenges to the discrimination and superficiality of American life. For progressive folks of goodwill and people of all backgrounds, faithful and secular, righteousness came to call forth a transformation of American society to make the beloved community here on earth. And King used the phrase beloved community as his adaptation, following a philosopher, Josiah Royce, of the kingdom of heaven, because he wanted to find a way to talk about making the kingdom of God happen on earth, be understood by people across traditions. So King would talk about the beloved community, where no one is outside. Beloved community is never just one place or one instance, but always possible and always present and bigger than any one moment. King said the aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community, so that when the battle's over, a new relationship comes into being between the oppressor and oppressed. In a 1953 sermon on righteousness, First Things First, he wrote, "My friends, if you would look through the long corridors of human history, you will see that major tragedies have come to nations and individuals chiefly, but not exclusively, because they have failed to place righteousness first. The historians tell us that some 20 civilizations have risen upon the face of the earth, and all but about 7 have ended in destruction. Close observation will reveal," he said, "that most of these civilizations fell because they did not place righteousness first. The Roman Empire decided to place military power first. For years boasted of superior roads, great economic system, and powerful political machinery. But in the 5th century, Alaric and the armies of the Visigoths swept across Italy and captured Rome itself. And so the empire that ruled the world had fallen. The empire failed to place righteousness first." King says Mussolini decided to place his fascistic government first, but today Italy is defeated and Mussolini is dead, killed by the very people he once ruled. He said Hitler placed Germany and the idea of the master race first. Hitler boasted that Germany would one day rule the world. As the German armies marched through many of the smaller nations of Europe, the bands played and the crowds cheered. But today, this same Germany and this same Hitler have been defeated, and the German nation is now in a state of reconstruction. They all failed to place righteousness first. And then he said, America is placing economic power first. We are boasting that we are the richest nation in the world, and we possess the power of the atom bomb. But if we do not place something deeper than this first, we too will be plunged to the abyss of destruction, said King. And I read those words, and I felt a chill, because couldn't they be said today? And whether Democrat or Republican nominee, preserving economic power, often the economic power of those who already have economic power, is what many political leaders at different moments have done. We claim to be the richest nation in the world, or at least the nation with some of the richest people in it, with now the power of artificial intelligence joining the power of the atom bomb in our arsenal. Yet we know America still can't ensure that every hungry family is fed. America still can't promise that the air quality along our highways isn't causing asthma for hundreds of thousands of children in our cities, including the Bronx. America still is a place where people can lose their livelihood over medical debt. America is a place where people struggle with addiction and debt without services. America needs thousands of houses of worship to take extra charitable collections to make sure that children in our communities don't go hungry. America still has families sleeping outside. Coretta Scott King, who by many accounts was more politically radical than her husband, would say the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate action of its members. A heart of grace and a soul generated by love. Greatness is measured by compassionate actions. Dr. Glaude, who we heard about earlier, he said that to honor the great leaders of the past, to honor Coretta Scott King and Dr. King and Ella Baker, to honor people like our own late Al Raymond and his decades of leadership for LGBT equality here in Westchester, we don't need to imitate or copy those who came before. But we must look at life as it actually is right now and reflect on the moment that we are in, the people we are among, and think about, what are we called to do? This past week, in the shadow of Riverside Church, where Harry Emerson Fosdick used to preach about righteousness first, at Union Theological Seminary, I was at a gathering with over 120 clergy from different houses of worship, from Hindus for Human Rights, from Bronx, the West Bronx Mosque Association, from the Episcopal Diocese. All these different faith leaders were coming together, and if we're self-critical, we should have come together several years ago, but we're coming together to figure out, what are we as houses of worship in New York called to do to respond to immigration and new immigrants and families coming here and families facing political threats and demonization? How can we better collaborate? And I went in pretty scared and depressed, and I left in awe of the hundreds of organizations that exist full of good people trying to connect and build something better. Learned about the Immigrant Law Clinic at NYU, New York's Make the Way Coalition, the fact that there are dozens of houses of worship in the West Bronx, predominantly mosques, that are housing hundreds of people with just a fraction of the resources that most of the historic legacy liberal churches have. And one of the individuals that morning said, you know what we're called to do if the political world steps back from immigration and care of the stranger? We houses of worship must step forward. And as Unitarian Universalists, we can be proud of the work that First Unitarian in Brooklyn is doing to develop a robust shelter program. And we can learn more from them, what we might apply and consider in our context. Because the truth is, we do have power. We're involved in our communities. We're neighbors. We shop in businesses. We can write a letter to the editor to our Congress. We can write directly to our congressperson. I just wrote to Mike Lawlor last week. almost shares my name. But what we are called to do is what folks in our tradition around the world remind us to do, to keep on progressing. There will be so much confusion and fear and voices of isolation in the U.S. from different sections of our political life. But just like past generations, we don't need to copy that. We need to think about what does it mean to put righteousness first. And it can be tempting to put comfort first, or security first, or Netflix first, or cynicism first. But in our world, we can be so much better than that. And in a world where billions of dollars are designed to make us depressed and dejected, just reach out. Join a community. Create a habit. And over time, over weeks, over months, something amazing might happen. Righteousness first. Righteousness first. As Coretta Scott said, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members, a heart of grace, and a soul generated by love. May we put righteousness first. Thank you.
Each week we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in the spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those that in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with PrideWorks. Please refer to our e-newsletter, our website. The website for prideworks.com is in your order of service. You can make your donation in several ways. Here in the sanctuary, you can give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. From your home, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal via the links provided in our e-newsletter or by visiting our website, UUCHudsonValley.org. Or if you prefer, you may always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Again, the words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. And now please rise in body or spirit and join us in our next hymn, which is number 118. Give a little shake, give a little shimmy to this little light of mine, number 118. Please join me now, and Reverend Daniel, in extinguishing the chalice. Words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Whether you are in the third pew or watching online, wherever you are in this sacred space, know that we are connected, that we are called to love, and that we can put righteousness first. May it be so, and may you be surrounded by love in the week ahead. Amen.
If you want to look at the lyrics and sing along, I'd sort of like to do the whole song today, so just a little.
Sunday, everyone.